right, folks, so you have explored dimensional analysis, right? We've used our metric prefixes. We explored a little bit with our English units, so going from cups to tablespoons or from tons to pounds, things like that. And you know that you have your reference sheet available to you at all times. As long as you don't write on it, you don't have to memorize any of that stuff. You just need to know how to be able to use it. So the last little piece of dimensional analysis that we need to go through is something called derived units. So derived units, our key word here is per. So you can see that we have miles per hour, kilograms per meter. Anything per something else is what we call a derived unit, right? Up to now, we've had things measured in kilometers or ounces or things like that. And it was just a standalone unit. We start to explore derived units when we have a unit over or per another unit. So like miles per hour. We're going to treat these like any other dimensional analysis problem, but you need to remember to cross out your units that cancel. This is super important. I've been kind of honing in on you when you cross out units because it keeps your information more organized, but this is where it's really, really, really going to help you. So when I look at this, this says convert 5,600 grams per minute to kilograms per day. So when I do this, that per is going to basically stand for a fraction bar. So I'm going to have 5,600 grams. This 5,600 is going with the grams. So I need to keep that together when I start to build what this would look like. So I'm going to have 5,600 grams per minute. If it really bugs you to not have a number with minutes, obviously you can always put a 1. My goal is to go from 5,600 grams per minute to kilograms per day. So realistically, I'm going from grams to kilograms, and I'm also going from minutes to days. I need to be careful. I shouldn't have used yellow, should I? I need to be careful because I need to focus on what's in my numerator and what's in my denominator. It does not matter if I start with minutes or grams. I could start with either one and just figure out how to do this. Since I have grams here, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the bottom to get rid of it. My goal is to go from grams to kilograms. Since there is no prefix on grams, I can do that in one step. If it did have a prefix on it, like let's say I was going from centigrams to kilograms, I would have to go through my base unit like we practiced the other day. On my metric prefixes, I can see that kilo is above grams, so kilogram is the bigger unit. It's going to get a 1. And according to my reference sheet, there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Like I said, crossing out is your best friend here. Grams and grams cancel out. So technically, right now, my units are kilograms per minute. I'm halfway there, right? I have kilograms, but I need to get my minutes into days. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to use red, is I'm going to take 1 minute. You can see that minutes are in the denominator here, which means if I want to undo them, minutes need to go in the numerator. Because I don't want to stay in minutes, I want to get into days. I could figure out how many minutes are in a day, but I'm going and put it in here. That's not something I'm picky about. You can always multiply. You don't have to go through the base unit of seconds. But I'm going to do minutes to hours. No, maybe not. And then hours to days. When I do this, my minutes and my minutes cancel out. And then my hours and hours cancel out. So now you can see I'm left with kilograms per day, which is my goal, right? And I now have that unit that I want. So let me fill in my numbers here. These, thankfully, are common sense, right? I know that 1 hour is 60 minutes, and I know that 1 day has 24 hours. So when I do this, I have 5,600 and then divided by 1, which you have probably figured out you don't really need to divide and multiply by 1s here. So I'm going to do times 1 divided by 1,000 times 60 times 24. My answer before sig figs is 8,064. Remember that everything that I'm going to circle in yellow here has infinite numbers of sig figs, right? Because those are right off my reference sheet. Just like and this is a good example of that, there are 24 hours in a day, right? We define a day as 24 hours, so I don't have to do anything weird with sig figs there. 5,600, be careful that there is no decimal there, so 5,600 has 2 sig figs, which means I need to get this answer into 2 sig figs as well. So I have a sig fig here and a sig fig here. That 6 is going to round me up. I still need the zeros there, right? Even though they're not significant. Don't do all of that hard work without leaving off your units there. We're going to have kilograms per day, right? Obviously, these are the most work of all of the dimensional analysis problems that you've done. And so, conversely, they're worth the most points. So make sure that you're doing things like showing your work, as always, right? And working on sig figs, make sure you're including the proper units, right? Figuring out where things cancel and what we're eventually left with. So be very, very careful with those. I'm going to give you a little bit of a cheat right now, because I'm going to go through the first 2 answers on your derived unit problem set. So if you pay attention, you'll have a little less to do. So I'm on the 05 derived unit problem set. Feel free to pause this and get that problem set out. Number 1 says convert 5.6 milliliters per second to liters per minute. So, as always, I'm going to write my number with units, 5.6 milliliters per second. Remember, if it's bothering you, you can always put a 1 there. I want to go, I'm going to use different colors. I'm from milliliters to liters, and seconds to minutes. So when I do that, nope, maybe not. So when I do that, I'm going to go milliliters on the bottom because milliliters and milliliters will cancel there. This liters is one of my base units. It doesn't have a prefix with it, so I can do this in 1 step. Okay, be careful with that. So I've now got liters, which is what I wanted. I now need to get my seconds into minutes. You can see here that seconds is on the bottom or in the denominator. So to get rid of that, it needs to go up top. Minutes are going to be here. Seconds and seconds are going to cancel out. You can see that I now have liters per minute. So I now have the units that I want. Now it's just an issue of filling in the numbers and going with that. So when I find liters and milliliters on my reference sheet, I can see that liters are above milliliters, which means the bigger unit gets the 1. And there are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. And then this one is easy. I know that minutes are bigger and that there are 60 seconds in a minute. So in terms of the math that I would put on my calculator, and again, remember if it's in the numerator I multiply and if it's in the bottom I divide. So I'm going to do 5.6 divided by 1,000 times 60. And my answer before sig figs is 0.336. Remember that anything in the middle that I'm circling in orange here, maybe not, there we go, doesn't count for sig figs, so I'm using that 5.6. 5.6 has 2 sig figs, so I need to get my answer into 2 sig figs as well. Remember that leading zeros don't count, even though I still need it in my answer. So 3 and 3 are my significant digits or sig figs here. 6 will round me up, so I'm going to have 0.34. I didn't do all of that work just to leave my units off, so I would have liters per minute. You could also express this in a fraction and say 0.34 liters per minute, or you could have 1 minute. Those are equal. Those would still get you all of your points because I have an answer with sig figs and units. So now I'm going to look at number 2. Number 2 says convert 4,500, that's a 5, grams per milliliter to kilograms per liter. So again, in my plan of attack, I have grams. That was probably a poor choice of highlighter. That's okay. We're going to go from grams to kilograms. Look like my son is doodling on here. And then milliliters to liters. As always, I'm going to set up my problem here. I have grams per milliliter. You can always put that 1 there if it's bothering you. Again, and just to change it up here, I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter if I start with the grams or the milliliters. I've been typically starting with what's on top. I'm going to show you that starting on the bottom is just as good. I have milliliters on the bottom here. When I want to get rid of them, they go up here, and liters is going to go here. Remember that liters is a base unit. It has no prefix with it, so I can do this in one step. If it had a prefix, I would have to go through my base unit first. So milliliters and milliliters are going to cancel out. I'm now left with grams per liter, okay? So I've got one of the units that I want. My second step is to take this grams, or these grams. Grams are on top, so they're going to go on the bottom. I want kilograms, and again, grams is a base unit, so I can do this in one step. Grams and grams are going to cancel. Just to check myself before I put in all of my numbers and do all of this math, I have kilograms per liter, which is good because that's what I wanted here. So now I need to find liters and milliliters. Liters are bigger, so it gets the 1. 1,000 milliliters in a liter. I know that kilograms are bigger than grams, so it's going to get the 1. And it's 1,000 grams. If you are a mathy sort of person, you're probably going to see that you have to do absolutely no math on this one because I'm multiplying by 1,000 and dividing by 1,000. Realistically, if you put this in your calculator, those thousands cancel out and you're left with 4,500. If you don't believe me, try it. However, my units are now different. I have kilograms per liter. So you could do that as an answer, or you can leave it in its fraction form and put a 1 there if it's bothering you. Right? Either one of those are fine because I have a number with sig figs and units. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Remember that you have an answer key available for this, but that answer key does not involve sig figs, so make sure you're checking those and your units as you go along.